In 2023, the Netherlands was ranked number 1 on the Quality of Life Index. And the index is based on a few factors such as pollution, purchasing power, and also things like safety. And while looking at these numbers are always interesting, at least to me, I think there is something to be said about supplementing the data with people's real lives experiences, especially if you're looking into moving to that country or just generally are interested to know what life is like in different countries. Bring in me! Hello and welcome. My name is Naz, and in this channel I'm going to share with you the real side of expat life and traveling as well. I've been living in the Netherlands for the past 5 years, and the experience has been life-changing. And today I want to share with you the top 10 things that I love about living in this beautiful country. Number 1, bike culture. By far my most favorite thing about living here is actually the bike culture, and of course the infrastructure that comes with it. I love that I get to bike to most places that I need to go daily. I even put my 1-year-old on a bike and take her to daycare most days, and she loves it too. It makes my commute much more fun. I don't have to worry about driving a car or parking it everywhere. And I get to stay active in my daily life pretty easily. I didn't even know how to bike before I moved here, really. But now I cannot imagine my life just relying on a car every day instead of a bike. Number 2, organization and practicality. Some of you might have heard of the agenda that the Dutch people give. And I must say, I actually really love this a lot. I think this particular quirk is actually the reflection of a bigger overarching theme in the culture, which values and appreciates order and efficiency and practicality and being organized. Everything just works. And better yet, it works online. For example, like little things like most cafes and restaurants have their menus up with the prices. I can do my taxes online and it is already pre-filled because I'm an employee, and everything, my contract, everything else is connected through a national health system. Similarly, with a national health system, I can check my daughter's checkups, her vaccines, her growth charts, everything on a national online platform. Another thing that is, I think, really basic, but it really creates a nicer experience and more seamless and efficient experience, is that I don't carry my bank card most of the time, and of course no cash, because I can just pay with my phone in most of the time. And like, these are some of the examples of how things go towards being just working efficiently and practicality in your personal life, in your social life, and in your work life. Which leads me to my next point. Number 3, infrastructure. This organization and practicality in being so efficient, I think it leads to building and maintaining an infrastructure that generally works. After a while, I stopped actually noticing it until I started traveling in other places and seeing the state of the roads, the pedestrian routes, and also, of course, the bike paths. But I didn't realize the importance of it until my, let's say, last weeks of pregnancy and early postpartum. Let me explain. So in the last weeks of my pregnancy, we just moved to a suburban area around the Delft and the Den Haag area, and which quickly becomes so valuable for me at that time was the walking paths that I could take to a green parkish area around our neighborhood, but also to the center of our neighborhood, which had a lot of cafes and shops around. And everything was walking distance still for me. It was safe, easy to navigate when I was 39 weeks pregnant and when I was 2 weeks postpartum and I was putting a newborn and getting out of the house by myself. And that was the moment I realized how thankful I am that there's this infrastructure in place that is very well organized and also very accessible for most people. Number 4, safety. Another point that I enjoy very much living here is, of course, the safety. The Netherlands is one of the safest countries in the world, and you can check out a bunch of index and all that stuff and it will show you the same thing. But practically, for me, let me tell you what that means. For example, I had a work event a few weeks ago in Groningen, which is the city up north, which means for me it will take me around 2.5 hours from my house to drive there, but also 2.5 hours with public transport. So I took the public transport, the event finished at 9 p.m. and I was at my local train station at 11 p.m. Let me tell you, like, the area is not metropolitan at all. It's residential, it's middle of the week, and it's dark, and it's mostly empty. And I had to bike to my house for around half an hour from there. And I felt completely safe. And I don't think that's something that you get in a lot of places. A woman alone, in the dark, in an empty area, with no car, just on a bike, with nothing around me. And I felt completely safe. And oh my God, the amount of brain space you have all of a sudden when you don't have to worry about your safety at any given moment or plan your life around it, it's so amazing. And it creates a much better quality of life for me. Number 5, work-life balance. The Netherlands is kind of famous for its attitude towards work-life balance, and numbers show the same thing. Recently, the country was ranked 5th on the work-life balance index on the OECD index. In numbers, when you look at it, that means that the Dutch workers spend 64% or 15 hours of their day on personal care and leisure, which is very high in comparison to most developed countries in the world. And it creates such a nicer balance in life. For me, for example, it means that I have learned to log off everything work when I'm going on holiday or even during my weekends. And nobody expects me not to. Nobody expects me to be available on my weekends or on my holidays. And it creates such a healthier relationship for me with my work. It allows me to not identify myself as much with my work. And it allows me to grow outside of other aspects of my life as well, such as working out or doing this weird new thing that I've been doing. Most people also work part-time. Well, not most, but a lot of people work 4 days a week. Either they work part-time or they have a 36-hour work week and they cram it into 4 days instead of 5, or they take 1 day off as part of their parental leave days, which leads me to my next point actually. Number 6, family friendly. I think the attitude towards work-life balance also lends itself to a country that is extremely family-oriented. As I mentioned, we have parental leave days, which usually means that when children are younger, parents take what they call a mama dag or a papa dag off on 1 day of the working week. Employees are all entitled to it until the child is 7. It is unpaid and the hours depends on the hours of people's contract, but that is usually what happens, especially with the younger children. Besides the parental leave though, I think what you see when you come to the country and you see all the kids around is that people take their babies and toddlers everywhere, in shopping centers, in malls, well, the few malls that we have, museums, and even cafes, restaurants, bars. It's just normal to have kids around. There's a lot of infrastructure supporting it. There's high chairs everywhere, changing facilities everywhere. There's play areas for kids in the libraries, which is also free for the kids, by the way. And besides the infrastructure, though, I think, again, the value lies within the attitude that creates this infrastructure, which is children and families are part of society. It's not only about creating spaces for kids, which is also important, but about creating spaces that also includes families and kids normally. Dutch kids are the happiest kids in the world, famously. And to my experience, there's good reason for it. Number 7, income inequality. Actually, the data shows that in the wealth side of things, there's a significant gap in the Dutch society. There's a significant wealth gap in the society, and it has multiple reasons: wealth taxing systems versus income taxing systems, energy prices even, and many more. Also, income inequality has been growing over the years, but still, in comparison to a lot of the countries in the developed world, and also where I come from, Iran, this is still quite an egalitarian society. And I enjoy that quite very much. Most people have access to most basic amenities of life. There's not cases of extreme homelessness, that people don't have a roof over their head, or extreme, very, very extreme poverty. And it's the same with access to healthcare. Most people in the country, regardless of their income, will have access to healthcare if they are super sick, and that is quite refreshing for me. I know this is how all societies should be. Nobody should be extremely poor or don't have access to healthcare, but unfortunately, it is not the world we live in. So I actually value a lot that this is most of the time the case in the Netherlands. Of course, I'm not saying at all that this is perfect. There's a lot of issues that is going on in that sense, especially in the past few years with the energy prices and the homelessness crisis and everything. But on a positive note, I think generally what I enjoy is that the general attitude is that it shouldn't be. And regulations, the society, everything is pushing for it all the time to fix it, and they have to a certain extent, and that is quite refreshing for me. Number 8, English. Controversial, maybe. I don't know. My husband and I moved here to study in a business school in English, and we found our first jobs in English. We switched jobs in English. It's quite a different experience than I think all other non-English speaking countries in the world, especially in Europe, I would say. The English proficiency in the Netherlands is around 90-95%, and most people are considerate enough and nice enough and practical enough to speak English with you if you don't speak Dutch yet. Of course, I cannot stress enough the importance of learning the native tongue of a country if you are moving to it, like me, and I have been learning in the past 5 years or so. But still, working, especially in a corporate professional environment, is quite difficult and challenging, I think, in your third language, especially if you just learn it in your adulthood as well. And also, there are other circumstances that this helps a lot. For example, if I'm visiting a GP or a hospital, or if I have my daughter's checkups, I usually use English because I'm not comfortable enough in those sensitive subjects such as health to be able to handle it in Dutch yet. And most people are considerate enough, again, and practical enough to accommodate English-speaking people as well. Also, I think on a macro level, it creates a very diverse and international community, which doesn't happen a lot of times, I think, in other European countries. It creates a very thriving economy, especially for such a small country. And most importantly, at least in my eyes, it moves forward innovation and progress, and it enables it, again, in a small country, but with such a big attitude. Number 9, ease of traveling. Living in Europe generally does mean that there's a lot of opportunities to travel to different countries, especially living in a small European country with a very important international hub, Schiphol. But it is not only the access, I think. It's also the fact that because everything is so close and easy to reach, we don't need to take 2 weeks off of work every time we want to travel. We can do a 3-day weekend, hop on a train, and be in Paris in less than 4 hours, I think. Yep, less than 4 hours. Traveling in general is a very important part of my husband and I's life, and it is also extremely important for us to give that advantage and that chance to our daughter as much as we can. And living in the Netherlands has made us do this up to this point. She's been to, I think, 5 countries. Yep, 5 countries before she turned 1, and I didn't get to do that until I think I was 20, and I was extremely privileged in this in comparison to most of my peers. Number 10, fresh flowers. Netherlands is the biggest, I think the biggest flower producer or flower exporter, better yet, of the world. And thus, flowers are super cheap. Like, I have fresh flowers in my house every week. It just adds to the quality of my life to look at them. So yeah, fresh flowers is the 10 most important thing living in the Netherlands for me. So there you have it. My top 10 things that I love about living in the Netherlands after 5 years of living here. Of course, this is personal. Everybody values different things in life and they have different experiences in the same country. Where do you live? I would love to know what you like about living in the country that you are now.